Kanpai. What is up, guys? It's Jacob here with my sister, Kayla.
Happy Valentine's Day!
Woo! And today I want to talk about marriage and the differences between Japan and Canada for weddings and romance because it's Valentine's Day.
Ooh, that's why we're in pink and white.
Oh, true. Valentine's color. Kayla just came back from the gym. So. But you look great.
I know. My face matched my shirt earlier.
Oh, because you get really red.
And it stays for a very long time.
I don't get red. Do you get red when you drink?
No.
Oh, just workouts.
Only when I work hard.
Okay, so Kayla, you have way more experience with weddings and marriage. You are married than I do.
Correct.
So
that doesn't mean I have more experience with partners, though.
That's true. That's true. Okay, don't be weird.
But yes, okay, I am married. I'm not wearing my wedding ring, though.
Oh, maybe you should go get that after. You should go get that after. So a lot of your friends are married already.
Yeah, I think that's like around your late 20s, early 30s. Typically, you see a lot of that, and I'm 30 on the nose, so.
But you didn't get married at 30.
No, I didn't, but lots of our friends are.
So when did you get married? How old were you?
Oh, question. How old was I in 2021?
I'm pretty sure you're 26, but you were actually supposed to get married the year before.
We were. So we got engaged in 2019 in the summer, and then planned a beautiful, or what I think would have been beautiful, Mexico wedding. And then COVID hit, and it turned out that our great idea for a wedding was actually like the worst possible idea ever during COVID for a wedding. I mean, just weddings in general weren't really ideal. So we bumped Mexico to the following year, to 2021. And that spring, as we got closer to the wedding date, we just realized that, you know what, it wasn't going to really make sense to ask all of the people that we loved to travel out of country when we were still kind of on the tail end, or, well, at that point we were actually really probably still in the midst of COVID. And so we ended up doing something really, really small with 35, 36 people in Canada, which was great. Which
I couldn't go to.
Except for that, yeah. Obviously.
I couldn't go because I was stuck in Japan, I guess. During COVID, I was not able to leave the country and come back. Mm-hmm. So you're definitely on the young side, because I actually looked it up. So the average age for men in Canada to get married is 31, which is the same age as Japanese men.
Interesting.
Which I thought it would be different. For women in Canada, the average age is 29 exactly. And in Japan, it's 29.8, which I'm actually kind of surprised that, because a lot of my Japanese friends got married at 23 or 24.
Right.
And I don't know a single Canadian person who's married yet.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more common in like more rural Canada. We have, like, Canada's got a huge rural population, right? Mm-hmm. But in your more rural areas, I wonder if people get married younger. Like, I think that those numbers, I would look at like Tokyo and Toronto or Vancouver and see where they match up. And then I would look at like, you know, more rural Japan and more rural Canada and see kind of where they matched up.
For people who don't know, rural means like the countryside area. But yeah, definitely if we compared a more countryside town like Kumamoto in Japan versus Tokyo, you'd probably see a big difference.
Big difference. Yeah, we see it. I think even here we see it within Canada. And I just don't know that Japan as a country is a good comparison to Canada as a country.
That's true. Yeah. But again, even still, the numbers being like exactly the same is quite interesting. This is maybe the most important part that I wanted to talk about. So in Japan, when you get married, you have to go to your government office to sign the marriage contract. Whereas in Canada, I think a lot of people sign it right at the wedding.
Yes, like you don't go, you would sign at a government office typically.
Right. Because in a lot of movies, the bride will run away, and a lot of Japanese people are confused because
Oh, I see what you're saying.
at
Okay,
the
yes.
wedding, at a Japanese wedding, they are already legally married.
Okay, I
So
see what you're
there's no
saying.
reason for people in the movie to run away because
Right.
it's not going to change anything.
Well, and in Canada, if you were going to run, or sorry, it sounds like in Japan, if you were going to run, you would run from the
government office.
from the government office.
Right? But in Canada, because a lot of people actually sign the day of the wedding,
Mhm.
like that running away means they're not going to sign the contract that day, right?
Mhm.
So it's a lot. I think the moment of getting married is often a lot heavier at the wedding in Canada and the US than it would be in Japan. Not saying that it's not emotional, but they are legally married already, so it's not going to change.
Yeah, and actually that's what Lou and I did is we actually signed our paperwork that morning. And you have to have someone who is certified to do that.
Legally, like a witness and stuff.
Yeah, like it can't just be anyone. So you have to have someone who does it. So you can go to your government office and do the signing there for sure, but you can also get the paperwork from the government office, and then you can have someone who is, I can't remember the word, ordained?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that
Yeah.
the word? Come in and, like you said, like walk you through the proceedings. And there's some things you have to say to get married and stuff. For Lou and I, there were two things. One was that we found that to be a little bit formal for us, especially because we were a smaller wedding.
Like to do it
in front of everyone. Yeah. Yeah. And two, we really wanted our good friend Max to do our ceremony. And I really felt that it felt quite a bit more personable, yeah, with him doing that. And we didn't want him to have to jump through the hoops of like getting ordained and all that stuff, and then everybody have to watch us sign the paperwork.
Okay, so I see.
So we got married that morning.
You got married the morning with the person who legally can do it
in our pajamas,
and then at the wedding you still have to say the same things.
No. So we skipped over all the kind of like legal verbiage, but we still did the like, do you, I do, for the vibe of it. Honestly, in the morning it was really nice to do it too, because we were like, okay, we're married, whatever happens for the rest of today, the point of today has already been accomplished. And I don't know, maybe that's why they do it in Japan, and now we can just celebrate. And you know what, if somebody stumbles on their words, it just didn't feel like it mattered as much, because I was like, the goal of today has been met, let's just have fun. And it really felt like it took the pressure off a little bit.
I think so. I think in Japan too, everyone can just enjoy it because it's done.
Yeah,
legally.
The paperwork's done.
Yeah, so it's like a really awesome celebration party.
Not necessarily signing the papers in front of everyone.
Right.
And I know Mom was definitely like, she said to me after the wedding, she was like, I heard that you didn't actually get married with us there. And that took a minute for sure to explain.
So yeah, for Mom's generation, 100% they're signing the papers at the wedding. And that's why
usually in the church.
I brought this up. Yeah, usually church weddings. And just this part explains a lot of movies where Japanese people are like, why is she running?
Yes.
Because to them, they're already married.
Yes.
So that's an explanation for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question for you too.
Okay. Ask me a question.
I'm curious, in Japan, like in Canada, or even just like Western culture in general, engagement stories like are always a big thing, like how you ask someone to marry you.
First thing I want to address is the engagement period in Canada is much longer than the amount of time people are engaged in Japan. So often in Canada, people, I think the average I would say is a year.
A year. Yeah, a year. And then if you're doing like a travel wedding, sometimes it can be a year and a half or a little bit longer. Yeah.
Whereas in Japan, again, because people often will get legally married at the office and there's no rush in between, we usually try to line up the wedding and the legal part in Canada. Whereas in Japan,
wait, you don't?
They often don't. So for example, my friend who she got married a year and a half ago. Sorry, she got married a year and a half ago. and she just had her wedding last week.
Okay.
So
I don't think I realized that.
oftentimes the engagement period is quite short in Japan. I asked a lot of friends, and a lot of them told me 3 months to 6 months is average. So the engagement to married, Japan is much shorter. And then married to wedding is a similar amount of time as here, engagement to wedding.
Do you have similar laws in Japan around common law marriage?
I'm not sure the full details, but Japan married couples get a huge tax break.
Okay,
But
that helps.
yeah, common law is about living together. They do have some rules, but I'm not really sure. But definitely a lot of my friends who got married younger, it's because they get an awesome tax break living together.
Right. Okay.
Let's go back. So you asked me about the engagement and engagement rings specifically. Why don't you go get your engagement ring? Because Kayla's is not a typical engagement ring. It's quite fancy, I would say. Let's. Oh my gosh!
So it's just what I wear as my wedding set.
Yeah.
Like it's not just my engagement.
Wait. That is fancy, hey.
It's not just my engagement ring. It's my engagement ring, wedding band, and Lou actually got this one for me for our 3-year anniversary, which is not typical, I don't think.
So Kayla has 3. So I'm actually interested for people watching or listening.
Share your engagement stories.
Yeah, I want to hear your engagement stories. So how did the proposal go?
Did you say yes?
Yeah, is it always the guy to the girl? I don't even know. In Canada, definitely it's
most common.
Like it's pretty much always. It's got to be 99%. So a lot of your friends are married. So I want to know, within the last 3 years, how many weddings have you been to? Because I know it's a lot.
Oh, that's a good question. We only had one last year. And then there was one big summer of weddings where we had, I think it was like 5.
What? You had 5?
Yeah.
In one summer?
Yeah. And actually Lou and I were in a few of them as well, like as like wedding party, because Lou's sister got married that same year and his cousin Krista got married the year after. Yeah,
So it's like 8.
Yeah, I would say probably close. We've got another 2 this year coming that we're really excited for.
So you have like 10 weddings in the last 4-ish years.
I would say at least.
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot. So 10 weddings within 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, easy.
Like, doesn't that get expensive? Do you have to buy gifts or like?
Yeah, it kind of depends. People do it different ways, right? So, for people that are doing weddings in town, where their bridal party doesn't have to travel and stuff, they tend to do bachelorettes and bachelor parties that are travel. If you're doing a destination wedding, then maybe you wouldn't ask your wedding party to travel as well for, a bachelorette or bachelor party.
I just want to stop you because I don't think Japan, and I'm not totally sure, but I don't think Japan has a bachelor or bachelorette party culture as far as I know. So I don't even think they would know what you're talking about. So you might need to explain, what is a bachelorette party?
Typically when somebody gets engaged before the wedding, they do a night out, like the bride does a night out with her girls and the groom does a night out with his boys. Usually at minimum it's the wedding party, so that for the bride that's her bridesmaids, which can be anywhere between like, I don't know, 1 to 5 people probably on average, probably more like 3 to 5 people on average. And then often they'll invite kind of their friends that they're also really close with.
Right. Like I want to go more personal. So what's a bachelorette party that you went to recently?
Okay. Well, I've been on a few, and a few, like, well, all of them were super, super fun. So one of the ones we did with M's was down to Seattle, and it was 4 of us. So M and 3 of her bridesmaids. 2 of the others were pregnant, so they couldn't travel very easily and stuff. And we just spent the weekend in Seattle doing lots of fun things, going for nice dinners, exploring the city, that sort of thing. Usually there's some kind of like either theme or like matching something. So we all had like matching heart sunglasses and t-shirts that matched and stuff.
You sometimes see like girls wearing like those pink cowboy hats or
Pink
something.
cowboy
Like,
hats. Sometimes there's like a veil that the bride wears out, like if
and
you're
like
going like dancing or something like that. But like very different vibe where there was 11 of us and we all went down to Phoenix, which was super fun, and like rented a big Airbnb that had a big pool. We had a yoga instructor come in for like a yoga class. We did themed days, and the whole weekend was kind of themed and all that good stuff. So it's a neat way to get time with your people in the excitement of the lead up to your
right.
wedding.
I've never been to a bachelor party because my friend's wedding was actually in Hawaii. So I think that's kind of what you were explaining before. If your wedding is somewhere where everyone else is not living, then the cost of traveling somewhere for a bachelor or a bachelorette party is kind of canceled out by the fact you're going.
So a lot of these things have, I think, kind of evolved as some of the cultures changed. I think that, where mom and dad maybe used to cover, and I don't know if that's like the bride's parents, I guess, used to cover the cost of the wedding in a lot of cases.
Right. Yeah.
And parents would, because they were contributing, would invite their friends. We don't see that as often. And so we're seeing kind of smaller weddings or more casual weddings in some cases, sort of thing. So I think a lot of people still are eloping in a lot of cases too. Like our cousin's getting married next week.
Right.
And she's eloping to Hawaii, and it's going to be beautiful. And it's just a different way of doing things depending on what suits you and your partner, and I think that's really neat too.
So eloping is, how would you explain eloping very simply?
Eloping is like bride and groom taking off. It used to be, I feel like, in the middle of the night, and coming home married, but now it's like, bride and groom are going off on like a trip, just the two of them typically, and getting married.
In the past, I think the eloping part was like having a wedding without your family, especially without your parents there, is like almost unheard of, I think.
Yeah.
Now it's quite common. Yeah, I think.
I would say it's more common. I think people too are recognizing two things. If you're
Costs.
if you're not having the support, I don't want to say support, that's not the right word, the financial backing from your parents, it's really expensive to host a party for that many people. And it's also really hard to pare the guest list down too.
Sorry, I want to jump in because in Canada, we don't have a mandatory amount of money that we have to give. It's often by gifts.
No, yeah.
Right?
And sometimes it's not even money a lot of the time. I mean, not as common now, but there's like a registry and you're contributing to the registry because they're building their home. It's not always cash.
So a registry is often a list of things that family might need after getting married.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Japan, it is actually, not only is it always cash, it has to be a certain amount.
How do you know what the amount is?
So it's common knowledge that $300 or 30,000 yen is the baseline. I'm not sure if this is per person, but that's the baseline if you're going to attend a wedding.
Does that increase like with inflation?
No, the reason why it's 3 being the base is it's supposed to be a number that can't be split between the couple.
Oh, an odd number.
So it has to be an odd number. So some people give...
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Some people give 5 as well, or 7, I guess. But that money often funds, as far as I know, almost the whole wedding.
Right.
Because 300, I think, is just over the cost of what a dinner setting would be. So it helps pay for the venue. And then a lot of people that I have heard from, it's still common in Japan for the parents to fund quite a bit.
Right. I don't think it's uncommon here.
No, I don't think it's uncommon here. I said it's...
Either. Yeah, sorry, either.
I just said no, it's quite common in Japan.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure how common it is here. Does that mean that they have a larger wedding a lot of the time? Like, what's the average number of people at a wedding in Japan?
Well, this is interesting. So I've been invited to a lot of weddings, and I was very happy to be invited. Mm-hmm. But I was not that close to those people.
Right. And is it common in Japan that you have a lot of people that maybe you're not close with at your wedding?
I think sometimes, again, this is not everyone, and this is probably not the people who invited me, but some people invite just everyone because it will help pay for the cost of the
Right.
wedding.
Right. I think that those types of people exist here as well. Kind of thing. Like I think it's a type of person, not so much a cultural thing.
Well, let's invite this uncle because he's gonna give us this kind of financial support.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in Canada, we don't necessarily have to bring a gift.
For ours, we just said no gifts because we knew that we were asking people to travel and that has a cost associated. It also means that they're not, you know, they're taking a day or two of vacation kind of thing. And we know that the weekend that people spent with us, which was so great and we so appreciated, could have been money that they put towards a trip for the two of them if they were coming as a couple, right? And so we didn't want to be like, hey, come spend your vacation and the cost of travel to support us while we were getting married, and then on top of that, gift us. Now, I say that we still got beautiful wedding gifts from a lot of the people.
I want to know,
who were there.
What, even though Kayla said no gifts, you still got gifts. So what kind of gifts did you get?
Oh, we got some really awesome gifts. So we got married at a winery. We got these beautiful hand-painted wine glasses.
Should I grab one?
Yeah, you can. So, and it's quite special. So we got them from Lou's brother and sister-in-law. And they got them as a wedding present from Lou's mom when they got married. So they got us a similar set. And the gal that they got them from, she was actually a really, really good friend of Lou's mom. And she hand painted them. So that was one of our faves for sure. We got some really beautiful wines as well that were like, they went out and picked not just like, wow, this is a great wine, but actually went and spent the time of like, this is a 1-year anniversary wine, this is a 3-year anniversary wine, this is a 5-year anniversary wine, and picked wines that were going to like be best when they were aged kind of thing.
Very nice.
We got a beautiful spa day from Lou's siblings, and honestly really thoughtful people, just in that like they took the time to travel and come see us and blah blah.
I'm super jealous. I couldn't go, to be honest.
It was honestly pretty fun.
I know. I saw videos and pictures, and I actually sent in a video message.
You did. I think you've seen the pictures of me sobbing.
Yeah, Kayla was crying
Dad
a
pulled
lot,
out.
apparently. So I want to move on to a different point at the wedding. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but in Japan, it's still kind of a requirement, and not every wedding, but it's still kind of a requirement or expected that women will have their hair up, like the guests.
Oh, is that like because it looks like you've done your hair and made the effort?
I think it's supposed to be a sign of maturity and formality.
And that's the bride that would have her hair up, or just all the guests?
As far as I know, it's the guests. A lot of brides do have their hair up as well. So I'm not sure about the rules around the bride, but when I see pictures, where I just know, like a lot of my friends who go to weddings, they always have their hair up. Is there any kind of dress code or things that you do when you go to a wedding?
I would say that like typically your guests wouldn't wear white.
Right.
Kind of thing. But other than that, not really. I mean, if you're in the bridal party, usually there's some form of request that your bride and groom have for like tie color or suit color.
Yeah. So I guess this is the answer to this question is
no.
No, it just depends on the wedding.
I would say kind of, but not really. Like there's never like any kind of dress code.
Yeah, really. There's no mandatory rule. Whereas again, as far as I know, for most Japanese weddings, women will have their hair up.
Right.
The one wedding that I went to in Hawaii, the dress code was to wear linen clothing.
Oh, that's common. That's I think beach weddings in general.
Yeah,
linen is common. It looks nice in their photos, especially for a smaller wedding.
And no suits was actually the rule, because my buddy who was getting married was the only one who was going to wear, and his suit was nice.
Yeah.
Because we're all in kind of beachy but slightly formal beachy stuff. And then he was in like the nicest tan suit. So even though he's Japanese, because it was in Hawaii, it was definitely more of a foreign style wedding. Yeah. So what would you say the average cost of a wedding in Canada is?
I feel like I read a stat on this that said it was around $30,000.
30,000. Okay, so that's like 300 man.
And that's from what I understand, that's everything. Like that's not just your reception, that's your dress and your shoes and your suit and your
Okay, so everything.
It's everything. Yeah, it's not just necessarily like the wedding cost.
And
I think
how much did your wedding cost?
ours cost about 30, actually. 30,000. I would say. Close. Yeah. I mean, I think if you add in the honeymoon on top of that and a few other things, we probably came out closer to 40.
And break it down. So what was the most expensive part?
Well, okay, our venue cost us about $5,000.
Right.
Because we rented a big house that everybody could stay at in our wedding party, which was so much fun. And then we spent another probably about $3,000 on food being catered in. We had a wedding planner because I was quite stressed out at work at the time. She was about $5,000. And she did and
for
she
the
did
planner. $5,000 for the planner.
Yeah. And I don't think that's a typical cost, especially for a wedding that small, maybe.
That sounds like a lot to me. But I want people to share, like, if you got a wedding planner, how much did that cost you?
And then liquor, which we bought for all 3 nights that we were there. Because the first night we had everybody coming in for our wedding party and stuff. The second night we hosted a fairly casual rehearsal dinner, but lots of wine and beer and stuff. And then the actual wedding day itself.
So how much was that?
I actually have no idea.
How much was your wedding dress? Oh, was it a lot?
Well, it wasn't that it was a lot. It's that I had 2. I don't know if you knew that.
You had 2 wedding dresses. 2 white dresses.
The reason I had 2 is I bought what I thought was a dress that I loved for our big Mexico wedding with 120 people and and it came in and I tried it on and I was like, okay. But then we had to postpone the wedding, and so it sat in the closet for a very long time. And then I was like, and it was like a big puffy, poofy princess dress, which is not at all what I thought I was going to want, but I loved at the time. And then when we were getting married with, 35, 36 people, I was like, man, this is a very big, poofy wedding dress for a very low-key wedding.
Right.
So then I had a bit of a panic, probably, I don't know, 4 months out or something from the wedding. And then I bought a completely different, like the first one had no straps. This one had straps. The first one was like floofy and this one was very fitted and lacy and stuff. Like they were like 2 completely different dresses.
Did you end up wearing both?
No. So I only wore the one that I got. I gave up the other one. Like I kind of swapped them out. So
you still have 2 wedding dresses?
No, because I can, well, yes. Yeah. Because it didn't sell. So
yeah. Yes. So yeah. You tried to sell the other one, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just have 2 wedding dresses, but you only wore one.
Do. Yeah.
Because when you first said you had 2, I was picturing that you actually wore 2, and I was like, I don't remember that.
I probably should have because I paid for both.
In Japan, that happens sometimes where they have a wedding dress and then they'll wear a kimono as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's common too, like even Vietnamese weddings. Like.
Yeah. Yeah. Korean weddings, the same. And then
because everybody wants the chance to wear the big white dress when they're watching what's on TV and stuff, but you also want to honor your culture and stuff. And I think that's actually a really nice way of doing it. For us, it's a white dress to party and a white dress to get married in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. The first dress cost $1,500, and the second dress, I actually can't really remember, but if I had to guess, probably around 12.
12. So you spent $3,000 on wedding dresses.
Yeah.
Whew, and only wore one.
Yeah.
But I thought we'd talk about romance and talk about love because it's Valentine's Day.
Woohoo! Go hug someone you love.
I actually have a different Valentine's Day episode, and that's why we didn't really talk about it.
I was going to ask about that because I've heard that it's very different between Japan and Canada. Should you show them the flowers that I got today? My Valentine's Day flowers?
So Kayla got flowers from Lou. No, this is definitely the number one present.
And chocolate.
Yeah, but in Japan, the girls usually make chocolate.
What?
Or make some kind of sweets.
I didn't know that. Make chocolate.
Well, they say make chocolate.
Oh,
but
like they
mean
mold them kind of
some
thing?
kind of chocolate thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a little more sense, honestly. I thought you were talking about like getting the cocoa beans.
No. Not from scratch.
Which would be pretty romantic.
In Japan, the girls often make chocolates for guys, which sometimes includes their boss, sometimes includes the guys in their life, not just their partner.
So it's not like just a romantic thing.
Not always.
That's fair. We have Galentine's Day.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, and I don't.
It's for the girls.
I don't need to know what that is because that's just not. I've never heard of that ever.
Really?
Never, and I don't.
Oh,
need to.
Well, you've been in Japan too long.
Whereas in Canada, what would you say very shortly? How would you briefly describe the typical Valentine's Day in Canada?
Typical Valentine's Day in Canada. Flowers for the girl, chocolates for the guy, maybe. I don't know. Flowers and chocolates, back and forth. And then usually like a nice dinner out or ordering in. And then I feel like a lot of couples then like get frisky.
Okay. Yeah, I'm assuming in Japan that happens too, but in Japan that happens more on Christmas.
I wouldn't say it doesn't happen on Christmas here.
Okay. But would you say then, is the guy expected to pay for the Valentine's dinner?
Probably.
Okay, so guys buy flowers, I think it's expected.
I feel like most of the time the guys here like do most of the planning.
Yeah, so Valentine's Day is a little bit more for the girl here, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so. And that's why they do things like Galentine's for the girls.
I still don't know what that is.
It's like Valentine's, but with the girls. So like you don't get your like boyfriend something, you get your girlfriend.
No, but what I was saying
your
is
friends
like
that are girls.
when I said that it was more for the girls, I meant like they receive more.
Yes.
And you have
Galentine's.
Not that's why we have Galentine's.
Oh no.
Yeah. But then in Japan, the guys give back on a day that's called White Day.
Weird.
So
what does that mean?
I don't know why it's called White Day in Japan, but
someone tell us in the comments.
If we had White Day in Canada or America, that would not be a good look. Like Hakujin no Hi, it'd be like White People Day. That's when I first heard White Day, I was like,
I see what you're saying.
I was
Sorry.
like-
Oh, I see. Yes. Okay.
so the girls receive, it's like a return gift. We call it okaishi. So it's a return present.
Okay.
But if we had White Day in Canada or America, it wouldn't go down that well.
The title wouldn't.
Yeah.
The vibes would.
Anyway, so that's Valentine's Day in a nutshell. But
not really a nutshell, but yeah.
Yeah. Any time I ask Kayla a question, we get the long story. It's great.
I'm chatty. That's why you like to have me on the podcast.
That's why Kayla, you should have your own podcast.
I do in my head.
Yeah. Anyways, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Thank you for Kayla being on the podcast. It's always great to have her. And enjoy, even if you don't have a partner, enjoy your year and have a great day. Thank you.
Mwah. Mwah.